Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas to you. My name is Joe.
So you guys, we know what's happening right now. I'll fill you in on a little Sharon and Joe secret. We are in the middle of recording our third annual Twas the Narc Before Christmas. So if you've been following us for a while, you might remember it. We have a little spoof on the night before Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
And we're recording it, and you guys, suddenly I had this massive fit of the giggles, and I could not stop laughing. And then, you know how when that happens, you try to be all serious, and then it would just keep happening. And I just needed to be serious for like 2.5 to 3 minutes, but we decided to take a break because I can talk to you guys like this and laugh. So if I start laughing hysterically, you know why.
I'm not against laughter at all. God, I cried so many years of my life that laughter is just awesome. And, you know, Merry Christmas. What's so merry about Christmas? You know, I'm not entangled with that narcissist. And, you know, we have hope and just, I don't know if you want to say anything to anybody out there sharing that. Like, you remember sometimes during those holidays how tough it was.
Well, there's a few things I want to say. First off, just while it's the beginning of the video, later on today, I'm going to release The Narc Before Christmas, and that's our little spoof on this. Look for that later. It's just a fun little poem.
We had so much fun doing it. We started it 3 years ago, you guys, and I just remember when we did it, it was so cool. When I first got into learning about NPD and codependency, I didn't know what like triangulation and smear campaigns and mirroring or anything was. And these little things that you could tell if somebody's ever been entangled with one before, because it's just it's how you talk.
We have a new vocabulary now.
Yeah,
a vocabulary that other people couldn't relate to, right? But we can.
And definitely a new an experience that'll change your life forever and hopefully for the good.
Now, I know not everybody celebrates Christmas, and it doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to say is just for anybody at any time. If you're right now struggling and you're dreading tomorrow, or you're dreading the new year, or your birthday, or Thanksgiving, whatever it is, I want to tell you something that I learned the hard way. And the reality is you just have to believe this. You have to believe this. It's a faith issue. It gets better. When you're in the middle of it, it feels like it's the worst possible thing. But I've learned over time, and I don't know if this is the best example to use, but this is something that happened recently. And this is new to me to be able to have this type of faith. Joe and I breed snakes. And so we have to brumate them, which, just without going all into it, brumation is similar to hibernation, except that the animal is awake. Now it's dormant, but it's awake. And it still drinks, but it doesn't eat. So the snakes have to brumate for 3 to 4 months. Yeah, 3 to 4 months in 50 to 60 degrees. It sounds weird. Just take my word for it. Speaking of faith, it's true. This is what happens. We've had trouble at Joe's house because he doesn't have a basement. When I was in New Hampshire, my snakes brumated in a basement, and it worked really, really well. We haven't had a good area for them here, so we invested in it sounds weird, but a wine refrigerator. It's huge. It's taller than a regular refrigerator. And I know how this sounds, you guys. There's probably some of you right now that are like, what are you talking about? But just for a time, it's true. This is true. Look it up. We're going to brumate them in the wine refrigerator. So I had this delivered. Well, Joe was sick. You were home, but you were sick. I was at work, and my 2 kids were at home. And this refrigerator is brought in. And Paris, it was huge. It's so big. It can hold almost 200 bottles of wine. So this is a big refrigerator. And so the people brought it, and they laid it on its side, or they put it in on the side, and they asked Paris if they should lift it up. She told me she felt so bad asking them to do that because it's massive, that she didn't have it go up. And then later, so it was there for about 4 or 5 hours, Joe saw it, and he was like, oh my gosh, it has to be up right away. And then I'm like, it does? And I'm looking stuff up, and I'm reading all these horrible things. And
well, guys, when you got a refrigerator or something like that, and it has the coolant and stuff like that, whenever it's delivered, on all of the boxes, they have these arrows, and it says this way up, like any kind of liquid or anything like that. So I had thought that FedEx, like whatever drive they did, 500-mile drive or 1,000-mile drive, whatever, it was like laying on the side when a damn arrow say point up. So I was like, Sharon, you don't want it. Well, she said I freaked out. I don't think I recall freaking out, but I have like selective memory. But I thought the FedEx people, delivery people had it that way and just didn't give a crap.
To be fair, Paris and I both have a real aversion to angry men. So you might not have been as angry as I thought you were. But regardless, for what I'm telling you, I freaked out. And
it was expensive.
It was like $1,500, something like that. I freaked out because I'm thinking it was a stretch for us to buy this. We needed it for the business, that's true, but that's a lot of money. I thought it was going to be ruined. And I started panicking. Now, Joe wasn't feeling well, so I didn't want to like really burden him with this. So it built up. Well,
Sharon has a tendency of going on the internet, and then, you know, like if you ever have a medical condition, like you got a runny nose, and it's like you have, God forbid, it's like some kind of cancer. So she's reading all the stuff on the internet. I tried to tell her, no, listen, as long as it wasn't on the site the whole time, even from like where it was shipped at, it should be fine. You have to let it
At that point, though, it was gone. And so I didn't want to burden him too much. And I'm looking stuff up, and most things were like, oh, it's okay. But I read, of course, some things that said it wasn't okay. Finally, I was literally, I don't even told you this, Joe. You were shaving upstairs. Like, how long was this going to take you? Like 10 minutes or whatever? It was building up. And I literally, you guys, I was going to have a full-blown panic attack at this. It sounds stupid, but this is really what was happening. I had to stop myself from going into the bathroom and stop Joe from shaving to tell him I was so freaked out over this. So I was waiting this eternity for him to come downstairs. And then I told him, I was like, Joe, and this is the whole point for me telling you this, I was like, I know I'm going to feel better, but right now I feel like I'm going to have a massive panic attack. I am so stressed out. My heart was racing. But thank God I have learned over time that I do feel better. You know, when I feel that way, when I feel like I'm going to have this panic attack, or I feel like this is the worst possible thing, or I feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired from my job, or whatever it is, having faith in that moment, remembering the way that you feel right now, right this second, you're not always going to feel that way. Joe has had this issue. I have had this issue. Things get better.
A couple tools that were put in my toolbox a long time ago were things that I could kind of self-talk. And of course, there's that quote from Shakespeare, this too shall pass. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And one thing I have a tendency of doing is judging other people's outsides by how I feel inside. You know, so I think the whole point of this is that, you know, you have to do the work, but it is possible. We are living examples that as long as you have a God of your understanding in your life, and you cultivate that relationship, that it is possible to get through the holidays and actually be cheerful and give.
Also, remember, this is something I used to do. I think a lot of people do this. We assume other people have it better than us.
Judging other people's outsides.
Yeah, exactly.
How we feel
That's
inside.
why I said that, yeah. Like, you might see your neighbor, oh, why does my neighbor have this big happy family? Or their kids look like they're doing great. Or, you know, they've been married for 175 years and they're so happy. And you look at all this stuff, but you really, people probably would have looked at you or I that way, Joe.
Oh, yeah, what are you worried about? You know, what are you worried about?
I was living in this nice house and it looked like, you know, everything was great, but it wasn't that way at all. So just remember, if you're doing that, if you're looking at other people, your family, your friends, whoever it is, and you think, man, they have it so good, just remember, you really, truly don't know anybody the way that you think you do.
I was reminded of that. Somebody close to Sharon, Brian Barczyk, has a YouTube channel, and he looks like he's doing great, and he breeds snakes. Sharon's a veterinarian, but this guy breeds snakes, and he has a great family and this and that. And then he was recently diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given like a short time to live. And you want to talk about like humble? Like that put my ass right, because he would trade anything in the world for that, you know? So it's like little things like that. If you have your eyes open, God will talk to you.
Don't forget that that's true. When I was first beginning my channel, and some of you may remember this, I had a friend who had lung cancer. And I can remember so many times, you guys, this is a guy who was well off, like he had a charmed life. And I thought so many times when I was struggling to pay for the propane, my kids and I didn't use heat at night. I mean, that was our life. The refrigerator died and I had a second one in the basement. And I'm like, well, maybe some guys from church can come over and they can bring it up. And I was so embarrassed. And I'm thinking all the time, this guy would trade his life with me in a second, in a heartbeat. The issues that we have, they suck and they're difficult to get through, but you can do it. Having this faith, knowing, yes, I can do this. Having the faith, like I said to Joe with the refrigerator, right now, I feel like I'm not okay right now. I'm like literally about to have a full-blown panic attack.
Right now?
No.
Oh, I was like, holy shit, guys, I won't be back.
Now I have other problems, guys. I don't have the giggles. I'm panicking.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but there was one more I wanted to bring in there. Is like, sometimes I ask myself, I learned this from other people, of course, none of it is original, is I ask myself, okay, Joe, is it an inconvenience or is it a catastrophe? And we all have our turn on the wheel when it comes to catastrophes, but thank God, like most of the time, it's just a challenge. It's an inconvenience. It's not really a problem. When you get out of your head and you start to involve and give and help other people, like you find that you have an abundance of blessings, not just like primary needs like food, clothing, and shelter. Like you have other things too that not a lot of other people have.
You know what's weird? I had read this statistic one time that in the U.S., I know not all of you in the U.S., but you know, in a civilized country or whatever, however you want to say it, we are actually like the 1% to 2% luckiest, most blessed in the whole world.
Just by being born.
Yes,
being born
exactly.
Here.
The finances that we have, like it's incredible when you really, really think about it. You might not feel that way. I don't always feel that way either. But one thing I really do try to do, and if you practice this, it does get better. It gets easier to do this. Like I think you can attest to that, Joe, right? The more you think about it, the more you practice. Like guys, I used to have to fake being happy.
Fake it till you make it.
Yes,
man.
and it works. I decided one day I don't want my kids to have this like miserable mother who's always depressed, always crying, always complaining. And I used to take my kids out to eat. The last thing I wanted to do. I would watch a movie with the kids. I did not want to watch a movie. It was my birthday and the kids wanted to make me a cake. I didn't. I was like, I didn't want to do it. And now I love these things. So just the way you feel today isn't always how you feel.
For me, it's like the same thing. It was like in reverse. It's like
I've seen you change tremendously.
I always try to think my way out of the problem when 90% of the time I'm the problem. So like I have to act my way into better thinking. And it's through the action that in retrospect, when I look back, it's like, it's action, man. It's all about action.
We have more power than we give ourselves credit for. When you're with a narcissist or other toxic person, they can make your life a literal living hell. I think all of us know what hell is. We've been in hell, but we don't have to stay there. We don't. And so if you're right now, you're miserable and you're dreading Christmas and you just want to curl up and just put the covers over your head, it's okay.
And not only that, but you're not alone. There's others out there. You are not alone. And that's the first part of this recovery is knowing that, like, I'm not alone, man. There's others out there.
Guys, when I first started this channel, I know I've told you guys before, it's comical to me now when I found out about narcissism because I was living so confused. Like I couldn't understand why my ex would do the things he did. It made no sense. When I found out about narcissism, I felt like I had found the cure to cancer.
You're going to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes,
huh?
like I was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell other people know this. That's why I started the channel. I had no clue. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know millions of us suffer from this. So I thought I was all alone. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're all alone. You are so not alone. There are sadly millions. I mean, we're not talking dozens, millions of people who can understand how you feel.
And unfortunately, as you go through the recovery process, one of the most dangerous parts are that these narcissists are so messed up, we take our eye off of ourselves. And their problems are so like evident that we stop looking at ourselves and say, what got me in this in the first place? And what the hell's wrong with me? And like, that's where I needed God.
You know, Joe, maybe we can make another video about this sometime because just earlier today, Joe and I were talking about the way that we felt, you know, back in the day when we were with the narcissist, like how I felt, how you felt, like literally I was a different person. Even
when I went no contact, the first like many moons, let's say, I still felt that way. And that's when I was just like, well, if the problem is not in the equation anymore, then why the hell do I still feel this way?
How do you feel now? Because I can remember how I was, but I don't relate to that woman anymore.
I don't want to downplay how I feel. I feel okay. And okay is underrated for me. Okay means it's not extremely high and not extremely low. It's like serene. It's like, I have hope, man. I have goals. You guys, if you've heard us before, you know how far down I was. It was just, you know, it's ironic because Sharon and I, she's great with animals, but she breeds snakes, and I think of a narcissist. I used to have a negative connotation on snakes, and then we're brumating them in a wine cooler, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. So the whole irony on all of this is just, God took two people, Sharon and I, we were married to these things for 20 years apiece, and we were so far down. Like, he took the worst possible situations, and we're to set an example of what God can do for you. That's what Christmas is about for me, hope, like the birth of hope. And we want to let it out there. First off, you're not alone. And second off, we're just trying to give. The most precious commodity that we have is time. And where we put our time, whether we like it or not, is what our priorities are. We just wanted to wish you just a good day, a peaceful night, knowing that you're not alone, to be kind of like that beacon of light, the way our faith is with Jesus' birth.
All right, I'm going to end it with this, okay? You guys, this is something that's coming up. You guys might have noticed that I'm doing shorts on the channel. I just started doing it for fun with my animals. Joe is going to be involved in an upcoming short. Do you want to tell them about this?
I'm too nervous to. You could go ahead and explain what I'm going to attempt to do.
All right. If you could see Joe, he's a very muscular, tall, like, you don't look like many things would bother you. All right. However, don't tell Joe I said this. He's afraid of the snakes. So he doesn't pick them up ever. I do all that, even feeding them. So I thought a great short would be Joe picking up his very first snake all by himself.
I see the CPTSD kicking in already. I'm feeling it.
It probably is. So look for that later, for a good laugh later this week.
And then this will be where Sharon's going to release the 3rd edition of the Narc Before Christmas. And
later on today, yeah.
Hopefully it makes you guys laugh, or maybe even do your own and kind of say, I could have done it better, and do something different. Leave it in the comments, whatever. But to the best of our ability, we're flawed, but we truly do love and support all you guys out there. And thank you for everything that you did. And we had a wonderful year. Guys,
we're a part of a club no one wants to be a part of, but we might as well try to have some fun with it, you know, and we love you guys, and we'll be back. We'll be back before the new year, or right around the new year, right?
Yep. And we have a lot to look forward to this weekend too. My son, I think I mentioned last week, or maybe not, he's home from boot camp for Christmas. So it's been very special for me.
It's going to be a great Christmas, but remember, it's going to be a great Christmas for all of us at some point in the future. If this isn't your year, believe me, you know, if you guys may remember, when I moved in with Joe, it was on Christmas Day, and we didn't celebrate Christmas. It was so stressful. The police were after me. And my ex was trying to claim me. I kidnapped my son. Like, that was on Christmas. Remember that?
Oh gosh, that's why it's so special at this time of the year, guys. It was so far down the rabbit hole.
It does get better. It gets better. Maybe this is not your year, but that's all right. Look forward to next year. And if you look at it this way, it's going to be next year, next week.
Yep.
So God bless you all. We will see you again soon. I hope you all have a wonderful day and you're all blessed. And just remember to hold on to hope. I'm telling you, it gets better.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Remember that. It's about action. Get involved.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.